Hello, you're listening to Deviatus, a podcast produced every 2 weeks about the paranormal and the unexplained. My name is Jeremy, and you can follow the show at deviatus.com, or if you're into social media, you can find the show on Facebook, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DeviatusPod. This is episode number 3. Today I've invited Ryan Sprague to tell us about his new upcoming book, Somewhere in the Skies, A Human Approach to an Alien Phenomenon. We'll also discuss his upcoming play and movie about the Rendlesham Forest incident. Let's jump right into the conversation. All right, Ryan, thank you for joining us on Deviatus, and welcome.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jeremy. I'm really honored to be here and excited to see your show flourish in this huge podcasting world. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So you've got quite an extensive bio. What initially led to you being interested in UFOs and aliens?
The origin story, as it were, right? I think I've always sort of had a keen interest in the paranormal, the esoteric, and just anything that was considered outside the conventional box, as it were. But my passion really grew when I had a personal experience. I was 12 years old. I was fishing off the dock at night while I was on vacation with my parents, and this was off the St. Lawrence River, which connects to Lake Ontario in upstate New York. And I was listening to some Green Day on my headphones. This was back in '95 when Discmans were still around.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Oh, yeah. We're definitely dating ourselves right now. But, so I was listening to some music, fishing. It was dark out, very serene. It was awesome. And I noticed this reflection in the water. And it was like 3 white lights and this like sort of red-orange haze. So naturally, I look up, and right above me, probably, I'd say like maybe 200 feet or so up, I see this triangular formation of white lights with this red light sort of in the middle. And I couldn't really tell if it was a solid object or not. I didn't see like metal or anything connecting the lights, but I also couldn't see the stars behind the formation. So whatever it is, it's just coasting over the water. And at this point, I rip my headphones off, I turn off my Discman, and I notice that there's no sound, nothing. All I could hear was like the water hitting the dock, and I start screaming for my parents to come outside. And finally, my dad comes out, and by this point, whatever this thing was, it picked up speed a little bit, and it starts traveling north towards the Canadian side of the river. And my dad sees the 2 tail end white lights and tells me, "It's a plane. Ryan, you saw a plane." And I knew, even at age 12, that this clearly wasn't any kind of plane. And I was used to seeing, and it scared the hell out of me. So I just start looking into these things after that, UFOs and aliens, and I start taking out book after book at the library, and sort of just snowballed from there, Jeremy. My fear sort of turned into obsession, and it's kind of been following me in waves ever since. I mean, I mainly focus on UFOs, but the more you sort of go down that rabbit hole, the more topics seem to sprout up, or even sometimes connect. And I now find myself looking into some stuff I never thought I would. And it's been exciting, little bit terrifying to say the least, but exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, I would imagine at age 12 that would be quite frightening. I'm not sure what I would do. I would think that, this is kind of one of the questions that crosses my mind anytime I hear a UFO story is, if we do have beings visiting us from other planets, why are they choosing to make themselves known like this, or even let themselves be seen?
That is a very good question. There's a lot of different answers you could come up with something like that, Jeremy. If they are here, which obviously I can't prove, but we'll let the case evidence of, certain things speak for that. If they are here, I believe it's to sort of monitor us and try not to intervene. Now the ancient alien theory is huge and has sort of exploded into pop culture with ancient aliens and things like the Alien movies, Prometheus. But yeah, I think you could look at something like our first detonation of the atomic bomb. You know, the explosion could be seen from freaking space, and maybe they'd either been checking us out before that, or could have been the first time, and that's when they saw what this little blue marble was capable of. Not what we were doing to ourselves, but what we could potentially do to them, whatever this outside force is. But yeah, they're overseers, probably much, much older than we are, highly advanced if they're traveling here, and they sort of just want to see what we're up to. So that's one theory, but one I hold pretty prevalent.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the old Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek Prime Directive, don't interfere kind of thing. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the ancient aliens theories and all that. I'm very interested in this line of thought. I guess could you just summarize for the listeners what you believe is maybe the most accurate aspects of that theory?
Absolutely. I mean, we have the work of, Zachariah Stitchin, Eric von Donigan. These are definitely people I would suggest your listeners check out in terms of the ancient alien theory. They have some of the most prevalent books on the topic. Basically, what we're looking at is even before man, that some sort of alien race either came to our planet or was seeded from here. This theory, scientific theory, we call panspermia, where we perhaps were seeded from another planet and brought to Earth. Keeping that in mind, the ancient alien theory basically consists of, look at something like the Great Pyramids all around the world, not just in Egypt, and how at that time these structures, how they could have been made so efficiently, so exact, and so quickly. So a lot of people believe that maybe a highly advanced civilization, whether human in some sort or completely non-human, intervened. They came here, they helped us, and this was their way of saying, look, we're out here, we can help you sort of evolve as a civilization and move forward, perhaps by their own agenda, or perhaps just helping on the way, sort of nudging us and showing us what we are capable of as the human species. So yeah, the ancient alien theory is a little contentious. We have absolutely no proof of this, as we have very little proof for anything to do with aliens. But that's being said, Jeremy, I completely understand this theory. It holds some water, but I think we also have to give ourselves some credit. You know, we are highly brilliant people, and even back then, I think these things were very capable by human hands and human hands alone. So it's up for debate, but there is some pretty interesting information out there about it.
Well, I can't necessarily bring up the topic of UFOs without talking about Roswell. Some say the documents released from the Freedom of Information Act are not necessarily authentic. What's your take on them? Do you think they're real, or are they just more government smoke?
That is a very good question. I mean, if we're talking in terms of the quote-unquote Majestic 12 documents, Jeremy, yeah, these are documents that came forward maybe 20, 30 years ago or so, and they're up for much debate. These documents state that there were 12 elite scientists and government officials and military people who were brought together to investigate UFOs. And this all stems from 1947 and the president looking into UFOs after the Roswell UFO crash. These documents have pretty much at this point been proven to be false. Very well made, but false nonetheless. So we're sort of stuck in this limbo. What do we have to document Roswell other than one single headline coming out the day after the incident, stating that the government, quote unquote, had a flying disc in their possession? One day later, retracting that statement and saying it was nothing but a weather balloon, and other theories coming forward by the government saying that it was a satellite of some sort. It's sort of a snowball effect from there. Where does the truth begin? Where do the lies end? And unfortunately, Jeremy, I don't hold much weight in terms of the Majestic 12 documents, but there are some convincing things out there. The Twining memo is one of them. I suggest your listeners check that out. And yeah, we sort of, even 40, 50, 60 years later, are left wondering if the most famous UFO incident was a UFO at all. So frustrating, but exciting nonetheless.
Well, I guess I look at our government, and they're kind of shrouded in UFO conspiracies. Do you ever think we'll get to a point where the government is just kind of forthcoming and says, "Here's all the information we have"?
Hmm. That is a really good question. Most governments actually have shared the information they have. I mean, you look at places like Mexico, Spain, Denmark, Finland, India, China, the list goes on and on. Even Canada and the UK, or sorry, not so United Kingdom, as
Hmm.
we've recently seen. Um, they've all either released their UFO files, admitted that they either have or are looking into the topic, and some have even created current UFO investigation committees to see what the hell is going on. But for some reason, here in the US, our government is extremely tight-lipped on the subject. We
Why
had
do you think that
several.
is? I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, why
No,
why us? Why are we choosing to, just kind of deny the public this common information that so many other governments are willing to come forth with?
great question. I think we could honestly trace it back to Roswell, when even when the one of the first UFOs in our possession came to be, it was here in America. And what did we do? We supposedly lied about it right away. Um, and we've had several projects, Project Sign, Project Grudge, and probably the best well-known, Project Blue Book. But these all came and went with conclusions saying that whatever the UFO phenomenon was, it did not directly threaten national security, and it wasn't worth spending money investigating. So I guess basically there's been no official investigation into UFOs since Blue Book was dissolved in 1969. Many conspiracy enthusiasts, which I often admit being, believe that there are small groups deeply embedded in the intelligence agencies being funded completely by black budgets. And that's sort of where the problem stems. We have these black budgets here in the US, and we have no idea where our money, our taxes, are being pumped into. And perhaps they are investigating UFOs, holding the technology of these craft into military weaponization. And I cannot myself prove this, but nobody can. But this seems to be a strong possibility, especially when you look at how left in the dark we are as U.S. citizens today, in a sort of post 9/11, post Snowden era. So yeah, no, I don't believe that our government, which holds a lot more power than most, and is in bed with the biggest military imaginable, will ever disclose what they know about the UFO phenomenon, unless they are forced to when a UFO lands on the White House lawn. But even then, whatever filtered, padded disinformation they give us, it'll be utter BS. I'm convinced of that.
Do you think the president's aware?
It depends on which president you're talking about.
Let's say current president.
Current president? No. I'll be honest, Jeremy. I don't think this president is interested in the topic. I do believe there are several presidents who have been privy to some information. The full scope of it, I don't believe so. People like President Bush, who was part of many elite groups, including the CIA, I do think has some information about this. But you got to keep in mind, these presidents come and go, sometimes 4 years, sometimes 8. And why give them this life altering and humanity altering information when they will no longer be in power in 8 years at most? So yeah, I know people like Clinton looked into this heavily. Bill Clinton, that is.
Hmm.
And he was told straight up, even right after his inauguration, he wanted to know what happened at Roswell. He wanted to know what was going on at Area 51. And he was told flat out, President, you don't have the need to know about those things. So yeah, there are other people running this country, Jeremy. I won't get in too deep with the conspiracies, but the president is a face, and a face that is not there is temporary. And we sort of have to keep that in mind when we ask the question, does the president know about UFOs? As much as Obama is or should I say was a progressive president, I don't think he was privy too much information about UFOs, unfortunately.
Well, you bring up some great points there. Kind of switching gears to latest technology, that is available to the United States public and really anybody. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. I'm kind of an aficionado, mainly for entertainment. But what I notice is there's a lot of paranormal related videos that really claim to be authentic, and there's no supportive data or citing of resources or anything in the definitions or the explanations on these videos. What do you kind of look at to determine whether or not any of these might be legitimate?
In terms of photographic and video evidence, Jeremy, it's very tough. I run into this every day when I see a new video or someone sends me something. In an age where CGI runs rampant, we really can't trust this sort of stuff anymore. Maybe back in the earlier decades, the 30s, 40s, 50s, we could look at photographs and say, look, we have proof of this stuff. But even then, it could have been hoaxed. But again, today, we have people, even like teenagers in their basements, making these videos, CGI, sort of as a calling card, saying, look at what I'm capable of. Hire me to work for Pixar or something like that, They get millions and millions of hits, and then there you go. Again, there's your calling card right there. So in terms of video and photographic evidence, I I tend to sway on the extremely skeptical side when it comes to that. I will watch these videos over and over and over again, and if I can't determine whether they're a hoax or not, there are certain individuals that I turn to. One of them being a gentleman named Mark D'Antonio, who works for the Mutual UFO Network, and we're talking strictly UFO videos here, who is a photo and video analyst and is able to pinpoint exactly what goes on in these videos. Pretty quick, pretty efficient. But in terms of other paranormal videos, I'm no expert myself, Jeremy, but it takes just a little bit of common sense with a lot of these to really disseminate the truth from the fiction. And it's unfortunate, man. I mean, I would love to have that smoking gun video come out where we can say, "Oh, that's a ghost. That's a black-eyed child. That's an alien. That's the Loch Ness monster." But we just don't have that now. And like you said, there's very little data and there's no follow-up with these videos. Even if they're on the mainstream media or the news, we never hear of what happens after that. What about who looked into it? Was the video sent somewhere for analysis? It's unfortunate. The entire idea of feedback or follow-up is essential when investigating these things.
So do you feel overall that the whatever technology is available to us today has really either helped or hindered the progress of UFO research?
Catch-22, my man. I think we live in a very, very good digital technological age, but that comes with a lot of problems. Look at drones. Drones are the number one black sheep in the UFO world. Every day there's a drone up in the sky, and every day it's considered a UFO. And not only is it considered a UFO, they look like UFOs. They are disc-shaped, they're triangular-shaped, they hover silently, they move with ease, and people are videotaping these and saying UFO, UFO, clearly alien. So yeah, I think now more than ever, we're seeing drones more than we're seeing possible non-human occupants piloting these things. But that's not to say that that 1% that is not a drone or is not something else, that's not to say that it's not alien. All we need is that 1%, and that 1% is what keeps me going in this frustrating time of technology.
Well, I was kind of hoping to get a little bit of insight on, your bio that you provided me. The work you're doing with Peter Robbins and Larry Warren on the Rendlesham Forest incident. I was hoping you'd be able to tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So for those who don't really know about the Rendlesham Forest incident, this happened back in 1980 in England on two joint military bases, one owned by the RAF and one by the United States Air Force. And this was during the Cold War when tensions were pretty high. So we had American soldiers over there ready on high alert in case something were to happen. Little did the British government know, but we also were sneaking in nuclear weapons onto the American base and housing them in bunkers. So what happened in December of 1980 is on 3 consecutive nights, strange lights were seen in Rendlesham Forest, which is a forest that lay between the two military bases. The first night, a lot of lights were seen. Civilians saw this. Soldiers were sent out to investigate, and this happened night after night. And on the third night of the events, a young gentleman who was a security police officer named Larry Warren was sent out to investigate something that happened to land in the forest. He and several others witnessed a sort of triangular-shaped craft hovering off the ground in the forest, and he even claims that he saw small beings communicating telepathically, I might add, with high-ranking officials. After this event happened, Warren and several others were told never to speak of this again. They were told that if they did, they would lose their jobs, possibly pensions for higher-ranking officials, and to never speak of it again. Larry Warren did speak of it. He was the whistleblower on the entire Rendlesham event, and wrote a book with a UFO researcher, Peter Robbins. It took them 10 years to write this book, Jeremy. All the red tape that was involved, threats to not write the book. And I decided to write a stage play about the 10-year journey with Peter Robbins and Larry Warren in writing their book. This is a biographical play, so I am working directly with these two individuals on bringing it to a place where people may not know about this and may not even have an interest in the UFO phenomenon, and that's the stage here in New York City where I live. And I am a professional playwright. That is my trade, as it were. So why not mix my passions?
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. I very much look forward to this. And you're also making a film in relation to this play.
Yeah. I was approached about a year ago after someone saw the play version, which is a one-man show, I must add, that directly is Larry Warren's testimony about what he experienced. So I was approached to make a film out of it, which was I'm able to open up the story, create more characters, and it sort of serves as a companion film to the play. Again, we get to expand on it and see everything that Larry Warren saw, and again, bring that to another audience who watch movies and sort of show them what happened in 1980 and what continues to happen today when military officers or pilots see these things and they're told never to speak about it.
Well, I certainly look forward to that as well. I kind of eat up a lot of this UFO content and conspiracy theories and things like this. I'm really looking forward to those. But you've also got a book coming out. The title is Somewhere in the Skies, A Human Approach to an Alien Phenomenon. Without giving away too much from the book, can you kind of tell us what it's about?
Sure. I've spent most of my time writing short, extremely objective articles with word limits and not really being able to give too much of my own opinions on the UFO topic, Jeremy. So I approached a pretty well-known UFO researcher and historian, Richard Doland, about writing a book, and he was all about it. It would be my chance to sort of write to my heart's content and really dig deep into the phenomenon from a unique approach. And that was to focus not so much on the UFO sighting or encounter itself, but on those who've experienced it. How did it affect them afterwards? How did their lives change in every aspect, socially, religiously, psychologically, sexually, physically, everything? What could the implications to experiencing the UFO phenomenon actually tell us about the phenomenon? I personally don't believe we are ever going to get disclosure on this topic from the government, which we talked about. Therefore, it's those on the ground, civilians, witnesses, and we are the ones who must bring the stories forward. raise awareness about the reality of the UFO phenomenon. Make the mainstream have no other choice but to take these topics seriously. And I've interviewed hundreds of people, and I've sort of narrowed it down to about 12 or so. And I firmly believe something extraordinary happened to each and every one of them. I also interview members of academia, psychology, hypnotherapy, and even some of today's prominent scientists and astrobiologists about their thoughts on the topic and some amazing projects that they're currently working on to track and analyze UFO activity. So that's kind of a summary of the book. It's about 2 years in the making, and I'm super proud of it. I can't wait to get it out to the public, probably early fall of this year, Jeremy. So yeah.
Where are you going to be selling it?
That'll be available through Richard Dolan Press, so you can check out richarddolanpress.com. It'll be available on Amazon as well as a hard copy and as an ebook. And I believe it'll also be available in your local bookstore, if any of those still exist. So yeah.
There's a few around, yeah.
There's few and far in between. But yeah, you'll be able to find it there, and I'll definitely have links for that up on my own personal social media.
Excellent. Well, I think we've got time for one more kind of off-the-cuff question here. Hypothetically speaking, if you were given an opportunity to interview an alien for an article or podcast, what would your top 3 questions be?
Oh, wow.
Or top 1 if you're having trouble 3.
That is an awesome question. I've never actually thought about that. I guess the first would be, since I've spent half my life researching this, this is directly to an alien intelligence. Has your species or any other that you know of ever visited the planet before? If the answer is yes, then I haven't wasted decades of my own life, dealing with the constant ridicule and believing in this stuff. And if the answer is no, well, that kind of sucks. But
Buzzkill.
I guess the second question, I guess, what are their beliefs in their own creation? Do they believe in a higher power or a divine creator? Let's sort of cut to the core of the whole religious thing, The third question, if they'd visited us before, if they have either abducted people or what some of those people have said is true, what's up with the anal probes? Let's be honest. I'd want to know in all seriousness why they were doing what they are doing to us in terms of actual abductions. What are their intentions of finally making contact, and what comes next? Are we to be invaded or integrated into some sort of galactic federation or something? I don't know. So yeah, I guess those would be my 3.
Well, hopefully they won't actually answer the anal probe question, but
I
don't know if I want to
know.
Right. Well, Ryan, this has been a really thought-provoking conversation, to say the least. Thank you so much for your time today. Where can people go to learn more about you and your current projects?
My website is somewhereintheskies.com. I also host a podcast called Into the Fray Radio. You can find that at intothefrayradio.com. I'm on Instagram at Sprague51 and Twitter at RyanSprague51.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, and I really appreciate you as a guest. I like I said, I'm going to be following your work, and I look forward to your book and your play and your movie coming out as well. You're a busy guy.
Busy. Thanks so much, Jeremy. It was a pleasure. All the best with the show, and I'll keep you up to date for sure, my man.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
You as well.
I want to send a big thanks to Ryan for joining us this week on Deviatus. You can find this episode's show notes at deviatus.com/Sprague. That's SPRAGUE. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, please get in touch with me on deviatus.com, or you can choose to do so on Facebook, or even if you'd like to chat with me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me there at DeviatusPod. Until next time, thanks for listening.